All right, so for today, for science, we're going to talk about interactions amongst living things. How do they interact? All right, interactions among living things. So, things that we're going to look at would be predator and prey, competition, scavengers, symbiosis, mutualism, parasitism, commensalism. All right, so predator. What is a predator? A predator is an animal that hunts and kills other animals for food. So right here we can see this wolf. That's the predator. Look at him looking at his meal, even though his meal is way bigger than him. Right? So that's the predator, and here is the prey. And right here we can see one of the big cats looking and eyeing their prey. And so, what are prey? Prey are animals that are hunted for food. So, like we can see here, this fish right here has been hunted by this shark. And whatever this animal is hunted by this big cat over here. So, the relationship between predator and prey, a predator hunts for a prey, and then the prey is the hunted. Competition. So think of competition like if we had field day and you had competition between classes. All right, everybody's trying to win. And so what is a competition? It's the interaction amongst organisms that fight for the same resources in an ecosystem. So they might be fighting for shelter, either one animal wants a particular spot for itself. They can be fighting for food. They might be fighting for water. All right, so competition, again, is an interaction amongst organisms fighting for the same resources in an ecosystem. Scavengers. So scavengers are generally organisms or living things that hunt for already dead organisms. That's what they feed on. They feed on dead animals. All right, so an example would be like a vulture, and you can see this vulture is adapted without any feathers on his head. It helps it keep diseases away. All right, and it would hunt for dead organisms. And so that's the relationship between a vulture and its meal. All right, so I want us listening really carefully about this. Symbiosis. So symbiosis is a relationship between two living things that lasts over a period of time. So an example here would be our bee here, this bee, and you can see the flower. So in symbiosis, each organism is benefiting. And so, for instance, the bee right here is getting nectar from the flower. All right. Then here you can see that this bird right here is actually getting its food from the croc's mouth, but it's actually cleaning it up as well. All right, so it's a relationship that will last for a period of time. All right, mutualism. Mutualism is like a relationship between two kinds of organisms, and each of these organisms benefit from each other, one another. So an example right here is this bird over here is actually eating up like organisms. It could be fleas, it could be anything of the sort, from its host. And the host is benefiting because it's being cleaned up. All right. Here you've got like a hummingbird actually sucking some nectar from a flower. So it's getting its food. At the same time, when it moves from one plant to the next, it's actually pollinating the plant. So it's taking some pollens and it'll be, on its feathers. And when it moves from one flower to the next flower, it will drop those pollens and then it gets pollinated. So they're both benefiting. The flowers need the birds and the birds need the flower. All right, this looks really gory, but it's really important for us to learn. Parasitism. This is when one organism either lives in or on another organism, and it's going to cause harm or hurt its hosts. All right, so here is an example of a mosquito, and what it's doing is sucking blood from a human, and then it's going to harm the human by giving it a disease called malaria. All right, so parasitism, one organism lives on another organism or it lives in another organism, and then it's going to hurt it. So like right here, you can see this looks like an eel, right? And then on the fish, and it's probably sucking up all the blood from it. And like right here, you can see those worms coming out of that organism. All right, so that right there is parasitism. All right, so commensalism is quite different. Here is when an organism benefits from another organism, but it doesn't hurt it or harm it. All right, so it's neither harming it or it's helping it. So one organism benefits from the second organism. It doesn't help the other one. And like mutualism, when they help each other, this one is just one is benefiting from the other organism. It's not harming it and it's not helping. So an example is this clownfish over here. It's benefiting from its home, but it's not hurting it. It's not harming it. All right. So when we look at the symbiotic relationships and the interactions, when we have commensalism, the first species actually benefits, and then the second one is not affected. Mutualism, both species actually benefit from each other. And then parasitism, the first species benefits, and then the other species gets harmed. All right, so just talking about interactions with organisms between organisms in an ecosystems and how they interact between each other. All right, and that right there concludes our lesson for today.